Hi everyone, we are in chapter 11 and we're ready for lesson 8 today in math. I hope you have your math caps on now that you've done the math minute. Let's take a look at what we're going to be doing. Of course, our essential question is how can I measure objects? And today specifically, we're going to look at how we can measure and compare. Compare is the important part. Now the good news is that this is not new. We've done it before. We even did it last week. In fact, this is going to look very similar to an assignment we had last week. But before we do that, I just want to take care of a question that I think some people have had, and that's this. How can I answer a question like this? So let's say you have a question that asks this. How many centimeters are in 3 meters? Now you might know this answer already, but let's just say you don't. Okay, and this is going to involve a big number. Well, we remember our key fact that 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. Okay, and then we want to keep in mind that the question is asking about 3 meters. How many centimeters in 3 meters? Well, I'm going to put this bar there, and I'm going to pretend that that's 1 meter or 100 centimeters. Okay, so I'm going to put a 1 above that. Okay, now the question is asking about 3 meters, so I'm going to put another one there. Okay, now I know I've got 2 meters. Okay, and I'm going to put one more there. 3 meters. And the question is asking, how many centimeters are there in 3 meters? Well, we know that one of these is 100. Each one of these is 100. So we can, if you can skip count by hundreds, great. Then go ahead and do that. If you don't want to skip count or you're not comfortable doing it, you're just going to do an addition problem. Of course, you're going to do 100 plus 100, and that equals 200. Okay, and then 200 plus 100 equals 300, and there you go. So when you get these kinds of questions, you can skip count, you can draw a diagram, okay, like I drew meter sticks here. Whatever strategy you want to use is fine, okay? You don't need tape to do these. Okay, now let's get to our actual lesson for today. And it's going to be really important for you to have your pages available and to write certain things down. Okay, so we're looking at page 697, and you can see the title at the top. We are comparing metric lengths, which means we are talking about centimeters and meters. Okay, and I'm going to show you something here. It says find 2 objects in your classroom, which we can't do right now. Draw a picture of each object and measure each object in centimeters. Write how many centimeters long each object is. Circle the object that is longer. That's the part where we compare. Well, I'm not going to draw anything, but I'm going to show you a picture. There I've got a marker, a dry erase marker, and I have a crayon. Now, it just so happens that I know, because I measured them earlier, about how long these are. The marker is 14 centimeters, and the crayon that I measured was 10 centimeters. So, which one is longer? The marker, right? That's the bigger number. So I'm going to circle that. So we can say the marker is longer than the crayon. In today's lesson, we're going to do an extra step and talk about how much longer an object is or how much shorter, just like we did last week with inches. Okay, let's go on. So it says at the top here, you can compare lengths of objects. And we can see that these two tennis rackets have been measured. The blue tennis racket is 69 centimeters long. The green tennis racket is 76 centimeters long. The blue racket is 7 centimeters shorter than the green racket. How did they do this? Well, we took the 76, that was the green racket, and we took the 69 centimeters for the blue racket. And since we're trying to find the difference, we're going to subtract. The bigger number has to go on top. 76 minus 69 is 7. And I'm sure you all remember the rules for borrowing, right? I turned that 6 into a 16. I think you know all this already. Okay, now the middle of the page says, find the objects, measure them, write the lengths, and then write longer or shorter. So, number one, we have a lunchbox. Let's say, and I realize that your lunchbox might be different, but let's say that the lunchbox that we're measuring is 20 centimeters tall. And the key is 5 centimeters long. Now this is important. The lunchbox is blank centimeters, and this is where we're going to write longer or shorter. Now it might be easier to start with the blank. The lunchbox, is it longer or shorter than the key? Well, that's a bigger number, so we're going to write longer. Okay, we put that there, and the next step is to fill in that other blank. We need to know how much longer it is. So just like we did in the example above, we're going to write down the 20 for the lunchbox and the 5, and this is all centimeters, for the key. 20 minus 5 is 15. So the lunchbox is 15 centimeters longer, okay, than the key. Let's try one more together, and I want you to pause before I give the answer. This is practice with meters. So to do all of this work, you're going to need my measurements so that when I give you the answers, you can check and see if you did this correctly. And let's say the slide is 4 meters across the bottom, okay? And the car, we'll say, is 5 meters. Now let's look at the sentence we have to finish. The car is blank meters blank. Well, is the car longer or shorter? It's longer. Okay, and now we need to know the difference. The car is 5 meters and the bottom of the slide, the sliding board, is 4 meters. So what am I going to put in that other blank? Pause if you need to. Okay, you're going to put a 1 because 5 minus 4 is 1. Does that make sense? Hopefully this looks just like the assignment we did last week. Now, just like we did last week, I'm going to give you the measurements that you're going to work with. So for number 3, we're doing exactly what we just did. I'm going to put a 6 here for the lockers and a 4 here for the slide. For number 4, I'm going to put a 20. Now it's talking about centimeters. Okay, these are small objects. And for the salt shaker, we're going to say 8. For number 5, the swing set, we're back to meters. I'm going to put a 7, so you should be writing these numbers down also. And for half the basketball court, let's say 32 meters. They're not all 32 meters, but this is the number that we're working with now. Okay, and for number 6, back to centimeters because we're working with small objects, 22 centimeters, and for the hair clip, we'll say 10 centimeters. Okay, now again, you might have a brush at home that's a different length, but what I want you to do is use my numbers. So everybody should have this filled out. What you're doing in your assignment is you're completing these questions that talk about which one is longer or shorter, okay, and by how much it is. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Let's go on to the next page. Now for this part, you're not going to need your ruler. Number 7 says the red skateboard is 75 centimeters long. The purple skateboard is 83 centimeters long. How much longer is the purple skateboard? Okay, so you should be underlining and circling. And remember, we're comparing, which means that we're going to be subtracting here. We want to know how much longer one is than the other. Put the big number on top and just subtract, and you've got your answer. And make sure you write it on the line. Number 8, Marcus ran 50 meters. Will ran 67 meters. How much farther did Will run? Okay, this one's going to be solved just like the last one. And then we have a brain builder alert, number 9. Alec rode his bike 82 meters. Kyla rode her bike 14 meters farther than Alec. How far did Kayla ride her bike? Explain your answer to a friend. Okay, think carefully about that. Remember, brain builders usually require you to do an extra step in the math. So it's similar to the ones that we did before, but there's a little bit more to it. And finally, how can the right math at the bottom, how can you compare a measurement in centimeters to a measurement in meters? How can you compare a measurement in centimeters to a measurement in meters? I'm going to help you with this one. Before you ever do anything like that, you need to make sure that both measurements are using the same unit. So if you have something that's 27 centimeters and something else that's 2 meters, it's a good idea to move them both into meters. In other words, make them the same. It's easy to compare something when they're the same. We don't really want to compare something that is 10 feet and then something else that is 74 inches. So we just want to make the units the same. That's our answer. Make the units the same. Okay, now let's go into the homework, and I have to give you some information for that. So your homework is to complete pages 701 and 2, and I have to give you measurements for that as well. So let's take a look at those pages. Of course, read everything on the page as you normally should. And let me give you some measurements here, and you should mark these on your paper. So for number 1, let's say the spoon is 16 centimeters. And this lunch tray is 30 centimeters. For number 2, let's say the house is 30 meters. And the truck is 5 meters. Okay, and then you'll complete the sentence underneath. And then on the next page, Let's say the crayon is 10 centimeters and the notebook we'll say is 25 centimeters. And for number 4, let's say that the sofa is 3 meters long and that the chair is 1 meter tall. Okay? And I said sofa, it says couch here. It's the same thing. Okay? And then that's it. That's all you need to do. That'll be the end of the homework once you get to the bottom and complete number 6. Okay. So that's your math homework. Make sure you are keeping track of the vocabulary, that you know what inches and meters and centimeters and all these things are, so that you can answer these questions correctly the first time. Okay, see you later. The end.